Apex Online Racing is sponsored by Elgato, who created this lovely stream deck. For more information about the stream deck, the link is in the description below.
Good evening everyone and welcome along to another instalment of the AOR Hype Season 18 PCF2 League. We are here at Silverstone at the home of motorsport, as we are here for the 10th round of 21 here in the AOR PCF2 League. So we're nearing that halfway stage and there are still a lot of points left on offer. Silverstone played host to the first ever Formula 1 Grand Prix back in 1950 and has been the home of motorsport ever since. This year, F1 announced that the British Grand Prix will remain on the calendar until 2024, putting to rest any fears or any doubts of the future of such a historic Grand Prix event. The circuit, that is based on an airfield, has undergone a few changes in its time, the most notable one being the new arena section that was added for the 2010 season. We still have some of the most famous corners that have been a staple hold for most of the Formula 1 history. Corners like Copse, Maggot, Beckett's, Stowe, Brooklands, the All-Start Finish Straight, all classic corners that really challenge drivers even with this generation of cars. Speaking of drivers, we've had quite the shuffle, it must be said, of drivers in this league. Drivers switching from F3 to here. Some drivers have gone from this tier to F1. I believe we have around 8 or so new drivers that are from F3 or from other tiers, and we've lost 4 to split 1, but no changes, thankfully, in the commentary box. We still have myself, James Costello, and of course my partner in crime, Jen. We're still here to broadcast, hopefully, the remainder of these next races. Should we dive into some of the driver changes, Jens?
Yes, I think that would be a good idea. So, if I can just find it whilst I'm also operating the very nice new lobby that we have to get into because of desync for some reason. But yeah, let's try and find the new drivers, of course. Maybe you already have them up.
I don't know most of them off the top of my head, but I do recall one name being Skatey, who we did commentate over in F3 last season, who is the reigning F3 champion. And that's really it in terms of drivers I can actually remember off the top of my head. The rest I don't think I've ever commentated on before, so it's nice to see some familiar faces, it's nice to see some new faces. Obviously we do, another familiar name we do have is Ryzen, who unfortunately isn't with us tonight, but we do have a very nice number of drivers. I think we have 17, but I can't promise you on that because we have to restart the lobby. So apologies for this delay. Hopefully we can get into qualifying as soon as possible. But yeah, nice to see that changes have been made from the coordinators. Obviously it's never nice to see changes needed, especially with the low attendance drivers. This game obviously isn't appealing to many, as it has for the past AOR seasons, but it's glad the coordinators are listening and they have made changes, and hopefully for this tier the attendance rate will go up and be consistent for the rest of the season, because that's what we want to see, just isn't it, Jens? We want to see good races, and we can't really have good races when we only have a subpar grid with 10, 9, around that value of drivers. It's never, as a commentator, you always want to have as many drivers as possible, and you know, less drivers, less action. less excitement for us. You know, we want to see the best action possible, and thankfully, we've had some changes made to hopefully increase the amount of action.
Yes, of course, and I've found the list of drivers that have moved up from F3 or lower tiers, as we have Get Owned has moved up into F2. We have Brownie and Yeltec and Dax, all drivers who have moved up from F3 up now into F2 to, of course, improve the attendance rate so we can get some good racing with hopefully 20 drivers every week.
Yes, that's the aim. I don't think it's going to be possible, but around the 16, 17 mark is probably optimal. Obviously, we can't expect every single driver to attend. That's a bit silly. People have commitments, and league racing has to go on the side for some people. I know it from experience. You have to prioritize other things in life, unless you don't have a life, which is me in this case. But yeah. So it's nice to have more drivers, obviously, but it's just being consistent, really. We need to. We can't. The last thing I want is for Germany to have 11 drivers, for example. So hopefully, the drivers can be a bit more committed than the ones previously. Because we're only at halfway stage of the season, we don't often see this, and it's quite obviously the coordinators are struck by the vast majority of people quitting, and obviously the esports drivers are obviously playing a major role in changes being needed, which has given the coordinators advice for the future of whether to include esports drivers in the AOR league. So we do want the best drivers competing, but obviously esports, though, that this is where the season at its full peak. You know, drivers are training so much that AOR is kind of not necessary to them. It's kind of really minor compared to the esports practice. I mean, I don't blame them, to be honest. Obviously, there's money to be won in the esports, and there's no money to be won here. So I don't blame them. If they want to go for the money and the prize, then go ahead. But yeah, but this is pride. This is league racing. And that's what I really love about league racing. You know, it's just about being the best and trying to win, just to beat your rivals, really. And you know, the fact that we've got more rivals to compete, that should give, you know, the drivers more motivation to do well, especially the ones that have just come up from F3. Obviously, the likes of Ryzen, Hitting, and all the rest, they were in like a sort of championship fight, but now they've got no points. They can only they're probably too far behind to even mount a championship challenge in this tier. All they have to fight for is pride, really, and just to prove to the coordinators why they should have been in F2 from the start. And this is Silverstone is one of the best places to judge a driver's pace.
Remember to press spectate.
Oh yes. Thank you.
that was a close one. We're currently starting the new lobby to go into qualifying, and it was very close that my lovely co-commentator was a driver with no car instead of a spectator to commentate this race. I just saw.
We do not want to repeat of France.
Oh no, that was quite fun.
It was, but yeah, hopefully this lobby should have no problems. They think obviously still an issue in this game. Hopefully that has been removed for this lobby, and I'm kind of excited to see hopefully some wet weather possibly. You know, as a Brit, you know, even you know we're getting closer to winter now, and the weather is never gonna get any better, it seems. Well, hopefully the weather in real life right now could translate into the weather in game. No, it's bone dry for qualifying. Oh, well, that's put any hope of wet weather and qualifying to rest. But the race is a different story, hopefully. But yeah, dry and qualifying it is then. And we do have 17 drivers, so that's very good.
Yes, and looking at all the drivers now, it looks like they've all loaded in, and as you can see, a couple of drivers are coming out. Seeing as they're all looking to go for the soft tires currently, could that maybe shows that there is a bit of rain forecasted for the race itself. Without, as some drivers are going, normally would go on a medium or hard tire to try and qualify and then go long, but when everyone qualifies on these soft tires, it seems that they will tonight. Could that be a sign of rain, maybe?
Possibly. But being a bit more knowledgeable about the strategy here than most, I think it's going to be an optimal one shot from the soft to medium, the medium soft. The hards, just like last season, well, last season, well, in the last previous game, F1 2018, the hards are really useless around here. Obviously, back in 2018, this was the only Grand Prix event, I think, that the blue hards were used. And we barely saw it in the real life race, never mind the AOR races. Unless someone picked up some wing damage on lap 1, for example. Never really seen them. And it's the same case here. It should be a one stop from drivers from softs pitting around the lap 10 mark to go on to the medium. Obviously 26 lap race, and due to the pit lane being the longest, really, or the slowest of the entire season, it's a 60 kph speed limit, and it's so long that pitting twice just isn't optimal whatsoever. So drivers will need to avoid wing damage a lot. But here in qualifying, we can see a big train to start the laps coming through Vale. I'm seeing a lot of drivers just backing up, getting the optimal space to start their flying laps. And obviously now, the drivers that have just joined the league, this is their best chance to show their one lap pace. And again, to prove to the coordinators why they should have been in F2 much earlier than they were. But yeah, still half the season to go, so a lot of points to prove as we head into the first flying laps of this session.
Yes, of course, and we can look at someone that's probably a bit more in the fight for the championship, Soren, who is quite high up in that fight, currently coming through the field just after Brooklands there. Then we're cutting on to the old start-finish straight. He's looking to get some good points today and probably take the championship lead if he can do well enough.
And yeah, we should mention the 4 drivers that left us for F1, and they fully deserve their promotion. So I think off the top of my head it was Le Mans, Anka, Railgun, and I forgot the last one. Was it Hadler? No, Hadler's here. I'm honestly unsure. But I think there were 4 drivers that left us. But as I said, they fully deserve their promotion to F1, and I hope they can do as well as they've been doing so far. Obviously, Le Mans, who did take his first win, didn't really mean much now, considering he's in a completely new tier. For the drivers like Hadler, like Rayner, like Soren, as you mentioned, who is currently second on the grid, they've got a great chance to win this championship now, and that should, in theory, give them motivation to practice a little harder. And hopefully, there won't be any more driver changes to try to disrupt any drivers who thought they were in championship contending positions to then be put into a different tier and then having their expectations completely differed. But yeah, hopefully that's the case. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how mindsets change with drivers coming into this league and drivers who are still in this league. For example, Smeej, he's gone from a low points paying position driver to possibly a podium contender, who knows? But not doing so well in qualifying at the moment, but we know he did win this race in season 17, so I have hope that he can maybe do it once again. Maybe that's a Brit being a little bit biased inside of me, wanting a Brit to do well at his home events, but I'm just hoping for some decent racing.
Yes, of course, we are always looking to get some good racing, and with these drivers being promoted, that is just showing that they are quick and they do have the speed to contend with the drivers that were already in F2. So that's just a promise of some hopefully good racing, as we're already seeing Dax up in 4th and Zones on provisional pole. two of the drivers there getting moved up into this league.
Yeah, it's interesting because we really don't, like, some of these drivers, we have no idea what their pace is. You get an initial guideline from previous races in F3, but this is the real benchmark to see, well, who out of the drivers who have been promoted are likely to challenge for the top positions. And obviously Zone's looking so far so good. Dax in the Ferrari is in 4th. Skatey, obviously we know he's a reigning F3 champion, down in 10th, who is partnering Smeege. So both were in F2 in season 15 together, so they have some history. Not as teammates though, so it'll be interesting to see how they work as a team. Brownie, Yeltek, Get Owned, and obviously Heighton, me and Jens know very well. From, well, he joined in midway through season 16 and we've been commentating him ever since. So yeah, he's always been a driver we've always liked to have a look of. But quite quiet on the track at the moment. Most of the drivers are in the pits. I think it's only the Williams of Get Owned who's actually on a flying lap at the moment.
Yes, you are correct in that. Currently coming through the loop, about to go on to the Wellington Straight. Of course, the DRS zone through turn 1 got scrapped after a couple of crashes we saw through there. But still, 2 good DRS zones on this track, opening up for overtaking. Plus, the straights are open as well as the corners, so you can get a nose in there, and we are likely to see some overtaking.
Yeah, this is one of my favourite tracks, due to the fact that overtaking is so possible. But also the fact that the corners that lead up to the straights, for example Maggots, Beckett and Chapel, they're so challenging, and one mistake can really put you under threat from any drivers behind you during the race. But on board with Get Owned, who is coming to the end of his lap. And this corner, the Vel chicane, is so annoying, because if you just lock up and lose the rear end a little bit, or just disrupt any traction out of these corners, it can just ruin what could be a really good lap time, as Get Owned actually jumps all the way up into 4th place with a 1:26.5. We should be seeing a very low 1:26, possible 1:25, if the drivers can do a lap of all laps. So don't discount anyone to do that. But yeah, Get Owned, really impressive lap time from that, considering it was really his banker lap. And there should be a few tenths to find him there. But yeah, interesting to see if someone can dip into the 25s. If they can, pole position could be there. Still, just under 10 minutes to go of this session. Every driver bar Kimmy's have set a lap, and I think most drivers are out to their second run out of 3, possibly 4 if they're going to stretch it in this qualifying session.
Yes, of course, you can sometimes get 4 runs in. It is quite hard on this track because, as we mentioned earlier, off the long pit lane, it does just take that much longer to come through the pits, and it really can disrupt your times. But now looking at Yeltek in 14th place, another of the drivers going very wide through Stove curb.
The Danny line.
Yeah, he were looking at a very good lap time, but it goes all the way up into 4th. I thought his lap for second was getting validated, but no. That was a very good lap time, getting pushed down to 5th there. Well done to him, going all the way up into 5th place. His teammate down in 15th on his second flying lap set a 1:27.0 as his first time. Let's see what he'll be able to do here on his second flying lap, as we have just under 8 minutes to go of this qualifying session.
Oh, goodness me, a lot of drivers opting for the Daniel line, especially VP Hadlin nonetheless. He's making his way through the penultimate couple of corners into the final corner club, and he crosses the line to go second. Okay, well, many of the drivers using the Daniel line to great effect there. I don't know if it's legal or not, but obviously due to the fact that the track limit system isn't very, well, well, it can work, it sometimes doesn't, and that's the example where it doesn't. No driver, I think drivers can expose down the line a little bit more than officials will probably want them to, but if it's there to be exposed, then why not? For better lap time, that's exactly what drivers like Hadler, like Yaltic are doing, and, well, Hadler, only 19 milliseconds off zones, on the top of the provisional pole. Look how close the top three are. Like, Nixon in third. What, 200 separating the three of them, so, in fact, the whole grid. Here, the top 13 all separated by half a second, so...
Yes, and
yeah,
the whole,
really interesting.
the grid as a whole is actually just split by 0.877 seconds. So close, as we're seeing right now, and that is time that could be found on this track, as a mistake could cost you so much in parts of this track. For example, if you have a small lock-up coming in to the Vale chicane, that could just disrupt your whole start of the lap and cost you time there. So yeah, it is really all about finding those tenths round on the track.
There's many corners that you can get wrong. The Margate-Beckett section is always the one where I think is the part of the lap where drivers can gain or lose the most time. It's such a challenging complex where if you nail it, then you might as well say hello to pole position at the moment, because that can, if you misjudge it, that can lose you 2, 3, even 4 tenths, possibly even more. And if you nail it, you're gaining that amount of time, and that could sail like of Skatey into pole position. I mean, I don't know how we got on with the Margate-Beckett section, but that's the section I always love to see. Not just drivers going through there, because it's just a magnificent place. If I had to go to the real life Grand Prix, that's where I'd ideally love to see the drivers go through there. But it's so challenging that obviously mistakes are very much punished there, and it's easy to invalidate your lap time if you just cut the corner a little bit. But again, if you make a mistake, you could be flying off into the barriers, and I've seen that happen too many times in league races.
And as of course, part of that complex is having those sausage curbs, as they're called, those very high curbs that if you hit them can just spear your car off the track.
So we've got 4.5 minutes to go of this call. It's kind of flown by at the moment. I didn't even realise. Zones is one of only a few drivers who are on their lap. Kimmy's, who was originally last with no time, has now set a time, and despite only being 3 tenths off pole position, is in 13th. So I think this is, maybe bar Australia, the closest we've seen in qualifying. But Zones is currently on his outlap, so he'll be looking to go again. Yet Owens is actually done his lap, and he is still in 4th place, which didn't manage to improve. So most of the drivers are in the pits at the moment, gearing up for when the track is at optimal, when it's when the track evolution is at its highest, really. That's what I'm trying to get out of my mouth. But yeah, most drivers just waiting for that opportunity. If you can't leave it too late, because due to the pit lane being so long, you can't just leave it until like 1:50, because you're losing about half a minute just driving to the pit lane. So drivers have to, if you want to get out as late as possible, they have to prepare it to the absolute optimal. And Heinen is the first of the drivers that I can see to come out for their final run, down in 16th at the moment. But yeah, 3 minutes to go this session. Not a lot of time for the drivers to get their final lap.
No, and looking at Smeech in 12th place, about to come around the final corner. Let's see what he will be able to do. It is a small improvement, and that small improvement of just 0.156 seconds put him all the way up into 5th place, really showing that the smallest of margins can move you bits on the leaderboard. I'm kind of looking at Bulks and also up on his lap time. Will he end up, come the end of his lap, coming up to some traffic now? They will of course be getting out of his way, as it looks like he has aborted his lap due to that traffic. It was looking good though, good improvement. Now maybe just warming up, take another out lap instead of pushing through. As Smeej, not feeling he can improve, retires from the session.
That could be a bit costly though, because the fact that he improved so little means that if other drivers do that, he could plummet from 5th to possibly even 15th at this rate. The fact that the drivers are so close, any small gain is a big enough gain. Any small gain can lit. As he said with Smeej, he jumped quite a few positions. So this is the final lap, and I'm on board with Soren as he flies through the first sector in towards the arena he comes now. Obviously, he did not, unfortunately, attend the Austrian Grand Prix, which is a bit of a shame considering I thought he could have built up that momentum that he took from his home Grand Prix win at the French Grand Prix in Paul Ricard and try and build up some momentum. But unfortunately, due to real life commitments, he couldn't make it, but he's back, and I'm assuming he'll be alright on the pace as he's 10th up just through the first sector alone as he heads through Brooklands, Luffield, and now onto the start. Old start, finish straight. Through Woodcote he comes now. He has to nail these upcoming corners, and if he does so, again, he was up in 2nd place, but now has been dropped down all the way to 7th. His teammate is on provisional pole at the moment. Now here he comes now. Through Maggot, left, then right, then left again in Brooklands, and then the final sequence of Chapel, then coming onto the Hanger Straight. Use all the section of track available, and now you've got a lot of time to prepare for one of the most challenging corners, Stowe Corner. Brake as late as you dare, turning in, clipping the curb a little bit, going a bit wide, but I think he'll get away with that. Now into the final section of the Vale Chicane. Brake really late, shifting up into 3rd gear, then 4th gear, short shifting. A little bit squirrely on the exit, but up towards the line. Soren only goes 5th, so he lost a lot of time in that final part of the lap. Ignition actually goes on to provisional pole, the 1:26.0, as Yeltek goes 9th fastest at, and Zed Owens didn't make it to the line. It was on his outlap and didn't make it, so he's not going to go on pole. What about Hagler? Can the Red Bull take pole? No. So, after a climatic end, well, we've still got a lot of drivers yet to complete their lap time. For example, Dax, in the Ferrari, rounding the final couple of corners. Through club he comes now, originally 11th, up to 6th, and that was only a 10th.5 gain. Rayner now went quicker, but unfortunately got his lap invalidated, and that would have put him on the front row. I'm on board with Skatey now, one of the last couple of drivers. I think he is going to be the last driver to finish his lap time as he comes through Vale Chicane and goes magnificently wide and spins, and that brings to an end his qualifying session. But yeah,
Brownie's still going. Brownie coming through the last corner, getting a bit of squally on the exit there, comes across the line, goes only 17th fastest, and will have the last place on the grid.
Oh, Boomtonk jumped himself from 16th to 8th, despite saying goes on an outlap the whole time. So nice one, game. But yeah, good showing from a Ferrari, especially considering their lap Constructors Championship. So Dax is really giving them the boost they needed. And Smeej showing good form. Skatey not so, but the race could be a different story. Skatey usually, from my F3 days, wasn't really the best in terms of qualifying, but it was usually the race where he really showed his true pace. So hopefully, if he does that again, he could bring in a few good points for Haas. But Igniton on pole position, 2/10 ahead of the rest, so that was a clear margin. And well done to him, and hopefully he can convert that into a race win, because he hasn't had that so far this season.
No, and the rest of the grid from that will be Sones on the front row, Handler in 3rd, Box in 4th, Getzoned in 5th, Dax in 6th, Soren in 7th, Boomsonk 8th, Smeech in 9th, and Rayner running off the top 10. Then Yeltek, Kopi, Skatey, Kimmies, Heitzen in Cry6, and Brownie rounds off the grid in 17th.
The top 16 separated by just under 0.7 of a second. That's quite sublime how close the drivers have been, because we haven't really seen that for a while, and unfortunately for us it is still bone dry for the race. Don't think we'll be seeing rain tonight.
No, you never know. Someone could be spraying things up into the atmosphere to try and cause some rain. But yeah, it is looking extremely unlikely with a mostly clear sky above Silverstone.
Quite unusual for this time of the year. Also, we usually have Silverstone around the Christmas time, but no, we have. It's in October due to the fact that the game was released 2 months earlier. But we do have a break after this race. We do have the yearly 2 or 3 break. I can't really tell, but we do have the break for the Mexican and the US Grand Prix. That will happen in the next 2 weeks. Obviously, they will be taking place around the same time as the AOR leagues. Unfortunately, we have to put that to a side. So, thankfully for the drivers, they get a little bit of a break. But if they want to go into the break with a smile on their face, this is the best time to do it, to get a good result here. Because the last thing you want to do is end up disappointed, and then you have to wait 2 more weeks to try and, turn a frown upside down in league racing. So, yeah, for likes of Nickton, Zed owns. What a qualifying from him. The highest of the ones that have been promoted from F3. A lot of impressions have been made, but it's a race. The race is different to qualifying. So we'll have to see if Zed Owens can convert his qualifying pace into some decent race pace. I'm going to look at the tyres that the drivers outside the top 10 have opted for. You would expect them all to be on the mediums, and no, Hakkinen actually, the odd one out. He's on the soft. So his priority is to get past all the medium tyre runners. The last thing he wants to do is be stuck behind them, you would imagine.
Yes, because if he gets stuck, that'll mean that his chances of getting a high finishing position will probably be ruined, because he will get stuck here down in 15th or 13th place, and yeah, pitting and coming out in traffic off the other early soft runners, and not really gaining off starting on the soft tyre compared to the mediums.
Yeah, he's taking a gamble. Let's see if it will come off for him as he lines up on his grid spot, and Brownie down in 17th also lines up as we gear up for the 5 red lights, round 10 of this season here in Silverstone. Nickton on pole, Zed Owens alongside him. I do not have any of the red lights on. Are we waiting, or we got a delay, or are we just not seeing on our screen? No, I think we've got a little bit of a delay.
Yes, we are currently waiting for the lights to come on. Or what?
It's confusing.
Yes, it certainly is, but I think the drivers are in the same position as us, waiting for the 5 red lights to come on, and nothing's happening.
Apparently Hittinen is taking the lead for me, and we're on lap 2. Oh no! I've got 5 red lights. Here we go then. Bit confusing, but we're about to get underway in the most unusual circumstances. Kimmy's got to drive through a penalty. We're at the front. It looks pretty clean so far, as we are now finally underway. The drivers as confused as we are. We head into turn 1. Clean it looks like Nickton is ahead of the rest of the head into the arena section from the Mercedes of Zed Owens. Then Hadler scrapping away with Bulkstand for what should be 3rd, but is 4th on my screen as they now head onto the Wellington straight. No signs of any carnage so far. Brownie picking up at the rear, but Hakkinen still leading on my screen. In towards Brooklands we go now as a Ferrari going side by side with Soren. Smeed is going side by side with the McLaren of Yeltec. In towards Luffield we head now. They're still going side by side. A lot of action on this opening lap as the drivers settle into the bit of the rhythms. They're still going side by side, the Haas and the McLaren. In towards Copse Corner. Who's going to brake? Who's going to brave it? In towards there. Smeege does. managed to stay ahead of Geltec. But a very confusing opening lap. Ignition, though, still leading away.
Did Kimmy's also get the penalty on your screen?
Yes. Not a very bad opening lap with that drive-through penalty as well. So yeah, Kimmy's race is pretty much ruined already, as that is Smeege also going side by side with Soren. So he's getting very racy as Kimmy's does come in to serve his drive-through penalty, and that's really ruined his race. He needs safety car or bus for his race, really. I think Nixon sets the fastest lap of the race as we head on to the second lap of 26. And Nixon already pulling out a little bit of a margin. The gaps I don't think have settled a lot, because Z0 is actually right on the tail of Nixon. Nixon hasn't been able to pull away significantly. Z0 is looking really quick so far. I said if he can turn his qualifying pace into any good race pace, as unfortunately Kimmy's is out of the session. He's kind of realised there's no real point fighting due to the fact that the drive-to penalty is going to cost him so much. Hopefully that won't come to bite him and we'll get a safety car later on the race. But yeah, more scrapping away. Rayner scrapping away with the Smeege. Kopi scrapping away with the Boomsonk. But yeah, back at the front, Zed Owens looking really racy in the top two. But only starting to create a little bit of a gap ahead of the Red Bull of Hadler.
Yes, indeed he has, and that's 0.8 seconds down to him, and we will be seeing on the next lap the DRS to be enabled, as we still have the yellow flags of what I would guess is Kimmy's car in Sector 1, but focusing on the top two, both using the dandelion through stove. But yeah, with the DRS we could be seeing some great fighting here for first place. Both drivers looking really quick. Ignition of course took the start away from zones as the DRS there gets enabled. But also drivers further down like Boomsonk and Yeltec could profit of some DRS of the other guys. Now let's see what zones will be doing on the Wellington straight with the DRS opening. I don't think he has enough speed, but will he go for the move? Yes, he goes for the move into Brooklands, now into Luffield, still going side by side. Tried to have a look for that switchback by getting blocked, and oh, he almost goes wide and spins his car round, but he keeps it on the track and in a straight line. Now coming into Cop's corner, that has really cost him a lot of time up to Ignition first. That small mistake of just getting on the gas a bit too early. As Smeege also already getting a 3-second time penalty there.
Yeah, that's unusual for Smeege. He's usually so good at not getting penalties and benefiting from other drivers getting penalties. He won this race in 17 because of penalties. That doesn't look like it's going to be the case today, but like Nixon, even despite Zed Owens' mistake, still isn't able to capitalise and still under real threat, as most of the drivers, if not every single one of them, bar Raider and Boomsong and Smeege, are within DRS range of each other. So really tight field at the moment. Obviously we have lost Kimmy's from this race, but Zed Owens still, after that mistake, still right on the rear end of that racing point, and it just seems like a matter of time for the Mercedes to get past. Can he do it at the Temp 2? Temp 1 didn't go as planned, but I think it's a bit more closer to the racing point as we head in towards Brooklands. He's alongside the racing point. Is he past the racing point? Inside line for the Mercedes, but out the outside line in towards Luffield. Nixon holding on for dear life as they go wheel to wheel out of Luffield onto Woodcut and now down towards Cops. Nixon still keeps hold of that lead. Zed Owens is just fighting for that, and he desperately wants to get past. He doesn't want to push his luck too much. Ignition is so good at racing. His racecraft is arguably one of the best in this league. He's capitalised so much on drivers with less good racecraft as himself. But can he? How long before he gets overtaken? It just seems like Zed Owens is just so much quicker. And with DRS down towards Stowe, he has the inside line. Ignition not defending, interestingly. He gives the Mercedes the inside line, and he gives the Mercedes the race lead. Interesting tactic there from the Racing Point. Was it tactical to let him through? Is it just the case that he just doesn't think that he can hold on to the lead? Does he want to try and regain that lead? A lot of questions to be answered, but the main question is that Z-Owens is now in the lead as we have more yellow flags in Sector 1.
It is still just for Kimi's car, but now keep an eye out for Hadlers. He has been catching up to these two after they were fighting, but I think Sones will be able to pull out the gap on Ignition, even though he will have the DRS. Now coming down to Wellington, yeah, no one able to make a move into Brooklands or any of the other corners in that complex. But Ignition still close and keeping up with Sones. This could be a great fight for the lead of the race if they can keep it clean, not get any penalties.
The top 8, listen to this, Jen, the top 8 all within DRS range, which I think there's a collision at the back. Nope. I thought Kreisix and Brownie got into a
Ignition just went straight, I think, yes, through Chapel.
Was.
He went straight over the grass. I think he got pushed wide or something like that, because he just went straight over the grass. I thought it was lag, but no. Goes down to 3rd place there. Going off track. I don't think he got a penalty for it. Very peculiar thing to do there. I think he may have gotten some oversteer or something like that, as he literally just went over the grass bit between the Chapel exit and the hangar straight.
And that's cost him in position. As you can see, Hadley is now into 2nd place. Ignition, that's unfortunate for him. Just making a little mistake, as I said, through that Beckett section. He exited Chapel, and it's cost him dear. Just like Max Verstappen did, I think, in the 2018 race, and he lost out to, I think it was his teammate Danny Rick, I'm not sure, but I think he did something like that, and that obviously has cost Ignition a place, and he's down to 3rd. Meanwhile, while that was happening, I think Rayner also got past Soren on that hangar straight or somewhere during the previous lap, as now he's ahead of his VSR compatriot, so he's up into 7th place. But yeah, as I said, the top 8 still within DRS range, which the Smeech hanging back a little bit. As Kreisix has lost past Skatey, so he's lost a few positions in the Haas. Yeah, interesting climax there, and Ignition needs to claw back. I think Hadler is starting to reel the Mercedes of Zones in. Hadler is very experienced driving in league racing. Oh, he's actually pitting this early. Now that's bold. Trying the undercut, it seems, on the Mercedes. It's going to be a bold decision if it comes off. He's the only driver at the team dive into the pits on this lap. Just seems too early for me, but obviously he thinks differently. He's going on to the mediums, it should be. No, the hards. Right then. So obviously he doesn't think that he can get the mediums to the end, and that's unsurprising. But why the hards? Does he know something we don't about the hards?
I don't know. It could have been that he found some ace on it in time trial through the Grand Prix mode, training up to this race. I don't know. But going on to the hards this early is an interesting strategy.
Maybe he wants to avoid that train and avoid possibly battling. He wants clean air. He's got a lot of clean air. But surely he'll be at a disadvantage when the others are on mediums, and that mediums are just so much quicker and so much more viable than the hards. Well, he's a racer, we're not. Let's see how this comes off for him, but that gives Zones a little bit of breathing room, as he's now a 2nd clear of Ignition, who doesn't have DRS, so the Racing Point could come under all sorts of pressure from the Toro Rosso books and possibly get out in the Williams, and now the top 2 do in fact respond to Hadler's early decision to come into the pits, as does Dax and also Rayner. So will these go onto the hards or the medium? I'm seeing mediums paired in the Mercedes garage and in the Ferrari, so yeah, we'll have to see where Hadler is. Hadler is coming through Stone now, goes wide as per usual. Zones is now making his way at 60 kilometers an hour down the pit lane with Nixon, Dax and Rayner all behind him. Hadler is coming down the start-finish. This is going to be very close indeed as Hadler comes through at Abbey at turn 1. Is he ahead of Zone? It's going to be wheel to wheel and Hadler's made it work. That was so close. It was the tightest of margins for Hadler to make it work, and he's managed to do it, but Zones will have the DRS down towards Brooklands. He could try and get that place back. This is about off the effective lead of the race, and he is going to go down the inside of the Red Bull. The Red Bull did not see it coming. The Mercedes caught him out napping there, and he has managed to retake that place. The Hadler tried to make it work. It did, but then he couldn't keep hold of that for long. And due to the fact it's on the hard tyres, he'll be at such a pace disadvantage, you would think. So he should, in theory, be gobbled up by Nixon straight away. But yeah, Zones, that was a crucial move as he's managed to re-overtake Hadler and is now in provisional lead of this race as Boomsong, oh dear, he's sped in the pit lane. Skatey, unfortunately, has left the session. Hopefully he can get back in, but what a turn of events that was.
Yes, indeed. Oh, as it looked like, Nixon tried to go for a move on Hadler there, but thought better of it. Maybe he would go for the move on the start-finish straight through Abbey, maybe. It would be an interesting move to go side by side, not something you see every day. Now, still, that train of 4 cars now overtaking Boomsong and Soren in the pits, also getting past Bulksan, I believe. Oh, well, yeah, just got past him. As now, oh, Heitzen also getting that 5-second penalty. A lot of drivers not used to slowing down to 60 kilometers an hour instead of the normal 80.
Yeah, it can caught a lot of people out, including me. I'm trying to put a brave face on, but it is so annoying, especially the fact that Zones has actually managed to pull away a lot, but look how close these 4 are. 5 seconds is a huge amount of time to be lost. So speeding the pit lane will have huge consequences, as there's a move for second place in this race. Jaltek has got ahead of Smeej as the Haasman comes into the pits. So if he doesn't speed and he doesn't get on, is also in the pits. So that's the last of the soft runners making their pit stops. So now it leaves the ones who start on the mediums, like Jaltek, Kopi, Kreisix and Brownie. Jaltek is now the leader of this race. Skitty is now back. And he is back in the session.
Yes, and that caused a huge lag spike on my end. Thought that my game crashed there, but no, everything is fine. Still in this 4-ish car train with, of course, Zones pulling away at the front there. Looks like
get on!
Oh.
The move from the Williams, he's just come out of the pits and he tries to get past Nixon. It didn't work for him, and now Dax goes down the inside of him. They're going wheel to wheel down the Wellington straight. They're both getting right up the rear of the racing point of Nixon. They're still going side by side, and Ghetto has to concede that position behind the Ferrari of Dax. What a late lunge that was as he came out of the pits, just like Buxan tried to do on Hadler, I think. Actually, he's got past Hadler. So Hadler falling back another place due to the medium tyres just being the more optimal. As Brownie's actually overtaking Kreisig, so a lot of overtakes. Unfortunately, we won't be able to cover all of them because we only have 2 eyes, me and Jen. So yeah, a lot of action will happen in the next couple of laps. For example, like Nick, he's got the inside line in towards Stowe. It's very close to contact. Hadler just about gives him enough room so they can both manage to go through that section together. But now Eknington with the outside line in towards Vel, turns to the inside. Hadler hangs it round the outside and keeps hold of the place, but that's costing him time. To look how much time these guys have lost to Buxan and the Toro Rosso, as Soren now puts his name on the fastest lap board. He is going to claw a lot of time on these guys who are in a mad scrap. As Rainer now joins in the fray, as well as Dax tries to go down the inside of Ignition. There's so much action. I love this. We've been waiting so long for such action, and thankfully the fact that the coordinators have now sorted the tears out. We've been promised action, and these guys have delivered. And Hagler being the main cause of, he's stirring the pot of action here, being on the hard compounded tyres. I'm sure he won't be loving it whatsoever, but I'm loving this moment, and I don't want this to stop.
No, I don't think anyone wants this to stop, other than maybe Hadler a bit not being able to challenge for higher positions, not having the speed on those hard tyres. Ignition right behind him. Maybe he will go for the move come stove corner. As he goes for the move even before, I think he'll have the move done even before the braking zone. Now look at Dax behind him, or will Hadler maybe come back at him? Oh no, he will, but now Dax coming from behind, goes side by side, just tries to find the room as some glitching is going on there. I don't quite know what's happening there.
Oh dear.
I think some desync was happening there as they go side by side. Come the first complex of Abbey Farm. Oh, as Dax spun round!
No.
Dax and Hadler spun round! I knew it was going to go wrong. Yellow flag sector 1 and 3 virtual safety car deployed. A lot of carbon fiber has been spread around the first couple of corners as some contact was made between Dax and Hadler going through side by side the first corner. It is not a place you normally see people go side by side, and this is just showing why.
What on earth happened there? I thought Hadler and Dax were desyncs, so they shouldn't really see each other on the screen, but then they go side by side into turn 1, and they apparently make contact. Yeah, that's definitely not confusing whatsoever, but they've both come off so worse. Now, with a virtual safety car being deployed, this surely gives incentive for the drivers on the medium tyres to pit. Oh no, it's just been lifted as soon as likes of Yeltek, Kopi, Brownie, Cryzix, all those approach the pit lane, so it really wouldn't have been a wise decision to come in and pit, because they wouldn't have gained anything, as there's more yellow flags in Sector 3, but yeah, Dax is losing out. Yeah, Dax is losing out. Hadler is now re-overtaken the Ferrari, who has appeared to have a lot of wing damage. As is more yellow. What's going on?
Yellow flags everywhere. I'm not quite sure. Dax getting 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane and retires from the session. Very peculiar. We're seeing yellow flags kinda everywhere at the moment. But I don't think that will do anything to the racing. Or will it? Maybe it is just a graphical glitch on our end, as it looks like the drivers are still battling all out. Looks like Cryzix up here at the front, with Brownie still going along on those medium tyres.
But yellow flags are still coming up, even though there's actually nothing going on. So it's quite annoying, but apologies, we're going to have to deal with it. So even when it says there's yellow flag in Sector 3, there's actually no incidents going on. But yeah, back to the racing. After everything that's happened, we still have the top 4 being old medium type runners. Brownie and Cryzix are getting really close to each other. Yeltek still leads as Rainer now sets the fastest lap. This train is still continuing. We've got a bit of a breakaway with Zones and Bulksan breaking away. It's Ignition is in 7th. Get Owned is just about within a second of the racing point, but won't get any DRS on this straight, which could put him in the realms of Rainer maybe getting overtaking him. Soren is now in 10th. So that train is kind of breaking away after that unfortunate incident between Hadler and Dax, and Hadler really struggling now. He was struggling a lot even before that with the hard compound tyres, and now he's battling away with hitting on my screen. But he's
Yes.
ahead, he's behind, a bit of desync there going on with the McLaren, it seems like. There's more yellow flags, even though there's no yellow flags. But yeah, but interesting to see when the drivers of the medium tyres come into the pit. And as soon as I say that, here comes Yeltech and Brownie, and not Kryzik. So Kobe now takes over the lead. Yeltech should come in and put on a set of softs. Interesting to see where he will come out. Probably around Boomsong territory, I'm going to imagine. But obviously with those soft tyres, he could be a threat to the drivers around Rainer territory or Soren territory zones. He's really impressed me so far this race, and you know, he's on course to take a victory in his what will be his first race in F2, but there's still just under half the race to go, and the pressure really builds up at this stage, especially with a driver like Bulksan right behind you. But let's see, as we head on to this Wellington straight, Bulksan is just too far behind on this particular occasion. But yeah, it's heating up now. It's that part of the race where everything seems to unfold, and we're just waiting. It's like a waiting game for certain drivers to just overtake other certain drivers. It's getting very suspenseful. It should be, at least, in the cockpits of some certain drivers. It's getting very tense in the commentary box, it seems like, as well.
Yes, indeed, and it is at this stage that some drivers really need a reminder that it is not over until the fat lady sings, because some drivers may be getting a bit too confident in a certain position. Maybe they're in third place with the driver behind them, maybe getting a bit too confident, and then it is just so easy to make a mistake in getting overtaken by someone behind you. I'm looking at Rainer, just within that second of get owned as Kryzik and Kopi now pit. That means that everyone has been in for their first pit stop. Let's see where Kryzik and Kopi filter out. Behind Yeltech and behind Smeech and Boomsong. Will they come out just? They will be, I think, just behind Brownie, but in front of Hadler. We're now focusing on the top 5. We see Rain and Get Owned both within that second of each other, and Ignites and Ascati has left the session. Let's hope that he will be able to get back in with a backup invite from
He's out of the race.
Oh yes, yes.
And we've missed quite a lot.
Yes.
I don't really blame you, James. There's been quite a lot going on. So yeah, unfortunately Skate's out of the race.
Yes, that is very unfortunate, but Smeech in 9th place on medium tyres, just behind Boomsong in 8th. Smeech with a penalty. Ooh, getting a big tank slapper there, just in to what would be Beckett's corner there. But coming down the hanger straight into Stove, still keeping up with Boomsong. This could be a fight that will turn into something. Maybe they'll be able to snatch over position if there's a mistake in the drivers in front of them. Soames, Soames were doing so well. Gets a 3-second time penalty in the lead. Not what you want to get in your first F2 race.
It really isn't, considering the top 5, bar him, are penaltyless, including Bulksan. So, that's such a shame. He's going to have to rely on the drivers behind him getting penalties, and that's not a guarantee. I hope he can rectify that in some way. But back to the action. Boomsong is still scrapping with Smeech. Smeech tried to get past the Brooklands to no avail. Boomsong positioned his car really well. Smeech will need to get past quickly because he's got a few quick drivers behind him. For example, Brownie, who is on the soft compound tyres. Just me just kind of he's been given a hurry up by Brownie because Brownie wants to get past both of these drivers. Can Smeege get past him in the second attempt down towards so we go now? He's got a much better straight line speed with the DRS and slipstream. Boomstorm gives him the inside line and through into 8th place he goes, and Brownie tries to get past the Ferrari as well, but made a little bit of contact and backed out of that before things got a little bit too close to comfort. So he stays behind for the time being. Good move from Smeege there, but now it's kind of like, well, just a defending game for him now. Just try and pull away because 5 seconds to Yeltek. I think Yeltek's made a little bit of a mistake there. He's a bit sideways coming out of turn 3 and Village. I think, yeah, Smeege has gained a few seconds on him. So Yeltek a bit of a mistake there, and that's not what I needed considering he was gaining on the drivers in front. So, not great for him, but hopefully he can try. Well, he's in a stable 7th place. But, yeah, not exactly what I needed, especially considering he had the potential to gain on Soren ahead. But still a long way to go in this race. We still have just 9 laps to go. We have the zones. I really feel bad for him, but obviously it was his fault that he has got the penalties. Speaking of penalties, that's Smeege's second of the afternoon. It's unusual, for Smeege to pick up so many penalties. We've seen it, in Canada, he got 4th because he didn't get any penalties. He's so good at just being there to pick up the pieces when drivers get penalties and he doesn't. But I feel like the tables have turned tonight. And something's happened. Smeege is getting penalties and no one else is. So, yeah, he's feeling the effects and, will be outside the points as things stand. But, yeah, on to lap 19 we go now. And at the front, nothing's really happening. Everyone's just keeping in their rhythm. Buxton is within DRS range of zones, but nothing's happening. We've got a 3-way scrap for 3rd position. Ignitson 3rd, Get-Own 4th, Rayner 5th. Actually, Get-Own might try and get past the racing point. In towards Brooklands, no, he backs out of it. So some tactical mind games here from the Williams. If they can gain on the drivers in front, who knows? Any of the top 5 bars that owns could really win this race if the other drivers don't get any penalties. So a lot of questions still yet to be answered, and we have 8 laps to decide.
Yes, and you have
we don't decide. Sorry, we don't decide. No. Drivers decide.
Yes, of course they do. And get owned. Gets a 3-second time penalty there. You have to remember, zones can still pull out a 3-second gap if you really hurries up. It is possible, but it's looking unlikely. That now means that Bulksan is still our effective leader when zones penalty gets. Looking down into 9th place, Brownie still just behind Smeege, and Boomsong and Chrysik's not far behind. As we see Hudson pit in this lap, I think we're having some desync with him tonight. Very unfortunate. As I think Get Owned, yeah. Get Owned goes down the inside of Ignitson.
Oh no! Contact!
Oh, that's contact. Get Owned's round. Just got tapped on his wheels and just switched the center of gravity and then just got spun round. That means he goes down into 6th place and will probably fall further when he gets his penalty calculated in.
Damn, that was a strange incident. He went a bit deep into Brooklands and then Ignitson came back with a switchback and then I don't know, they just collided into the love field. Not enough space for the 2 drivers. Brownie is now ahead of Smeege, unsurprisingly, and Kryzix and Boomsong going wheel to wheel as Kryzix, with the more optimal tyres, has got ahead of Boomsong and into the points. Boomsong outside of it. So now Brownie will be aiming to pull away from Smeege. Kryzix will be aiming to get ahead of the Haasman. As we only have 6 laps to go in today's race, and the main action really is for the lower points paying positions. Get owned though, after that contact, has still got a lot of pace and he's using it to full effect as he's going wheel to wheel with Soren, banging wheels, and this time he gets the move done on his competitor much more simply. Didn't lock up, didn't miss any braking points, got the move done very cleanly indeed. Soren conceded and he's back up into 5th place, but will be very disappointed with, well, missing out on, well, getting into 3rd place and possibly challenging Bulksan ahead. And he'll have to probably settle for 5th on track at the moment. Soren's still right on the tail of the Williams, but with very low ERS compared to the Williams, I don't think he'll be in the mood to challenge, especially considering the Williams has a penalty. Heinen has sped in the pit lane, but on my screen he's going down the Wellington Straight. Are we seeing the same?
He's coming through the field.
Right, okay, so he's seeing for both of us. Okay,
Yes.
let's just ignore it. I mean, he could be winning the race for what we know, but...
I think that's unlikely with the speeding in the pit lane.
No.
No, I mean, he could be 4 laps in front, we don't know.
He's just that good, isn't he?
That is, of course, the funny thing with desync. Now, having an eye on Rayner, he's still behind Igniton up there in 4th place. Just behind and in that DRS range, not quick enough to challenge. Further down we have the train of Brownie, Smeege and Kryzix.
Yeah, there's still a lot of battles yet to be finished, really. The main one obviously being Rayner right behind Igniton. And Bulksan has clawed his way back into the DRS range of Zone. Obviously it doesn't really mean too much. Bulksan, all he has to do really is just avoid getting a penalty himself and he'll be on course for a win. But yeah, Rayner would love to add a second Toro Rosso on the podium. Rayner obviously has taken a podium so far in this season. In Baku, I think he came 2nd. He could be on course for a 2nd place as well here tonight if he can get past Igniton. It could be a Toro Rosso 1-2, which we've never seen before. Not just in this split, but in real life as well. As hitting and set the fastest lap whilst being on the hanger straight. So that's an achievement in itself from a McLaren man. What a way to mark your debut. But yeah, not the best race for him. Down in 14th. Probably a lap or 2 down by now. Due to the fact he's probably pitted just for pride and getting that fastest lap. But yeah, back to the battle for 3rd. There's that battle. Soren still within DRS range of Get Owned. But again, Get Owned has a penalty. And then that's really all she wrote for the battles at the moment. There is Kopi on the back of Hadler, but that's for 12 positions, so you know, not really much to fight for in that case. But yeah, we've not got a lot left in this race really. We've only got 3 laps to go, so Rayner's got to get a move on if he wants to take this 3rd position on track. As Hayden gets another penalty onto his board. But yeah, 3 laps to go in this race. Everyone has led this race since the pit stops really, but unfortunately will not, unless he can gain 1.5 seconds in the next 2.5 laps. He's already gained about half a second out of Bulksan in the past lap. Is it possible?
I mean,
it could be.
We have seen it before.
remember, I think it was season 16 where Crysis won despite having a penalty. I think this was a very similar scenario where he was, I think it was him and Zerg who could have won. Zerg was within range of winning, but then Crysis pulled out a gap and put out enough of a gap so that when his penalty did get applied, he still beat Zerg. If this happens again, Zedowns will have us to thank for being the commentators of 2 of these events to make it happen. Yeah, it's unlikely. You can never say never in F1.
No, he has a gap of 1.8 seconds currently. He has gained a lot in that gap, almost up to 2 seconds now. He will have to gain just over 1.2 seconds in 2 laps. It is not impossible. He is really just going flat out. Bucks are not able to keep up with him. Now the gap is 2 seconds. It's getting tense here. Let's see what will happen on these final 2 laps. Looks like Buxan is catching a tiny bit, and then Sones is making that gap bigger and bigger, just slowly. I don't think he has enough time. But
it's gonna be close. It's gonna be close. The way Zones is gaining and gaining and gaining, it's gonna be really close. And Bulksan is only 1 warning away from a penalty himself. But Zones has definitely cleared himself from being overtaken by Nixon or Rayner, so he's done a good job in there. 2.1 seconds as we approach the final lap, so he has to gain a full second near enough to win this Grand Prix. This has got to be one of the most climatic or possibly anticlimactic, we'll have to wait in a lap's time, end to the Grand Prix, as he cuts that corner a little bit there and Vale, he could have got a warning for that. If he gets another penalty, that's game over for him. But as we start the final lap, the gap is 2.227 seconds between Zones in P1 and Buxan in P2. Then comes Nixon, who's 1.5 seconds off, so he's not within that 3 seconds. He's got Rayner behind him, but I don't think Rayner has got enough ERS or power to get past the racing point. It's still 2.2 as we approach Sector 2. Oh, I don't think it's enough. He's going to have a monster. He's going to have a miraculous Sector 2 and 3. He's going to have to nail Markets and Beckett's the most he's nailed it in his entire life. Otherwise, Buxan will take a win, but Buxan has to be conservative himself, because if he gets one more warning, that's his challenge for the win done. He goes, whoa! He's stretching it at Cops. 2.46, I don't think it's enough, gents.
you never know, coming through Chapel onto the hangar straight. 2.5. Buxan clearly not having gotten a new warning. Now
2.6.
Stove 2.6. Will it be
2.7?
or it is close? It is going to be close, but I don't think it will be enough. As Sones crosses the line with a gap of 2.7 seconds, I think it was in the end. Just not enough. As he loses out by 0.292 seconds to Buxan. Wow. That was close.
You gotta give it to him. He tried his absolute hardest. One more lap, and he would have probably been out of reach of Buxan. But Buxan, fair play to him. He had pressure. One more warning, as I said, and he would have lost the win. But he didn't crack under pressure. He stayed calm. and has resulted in him taking his first win of the season, but driver of the day, due to the fact that it's first ever race in this tier. I think it has to go to Zones, really. He tried his absolute hardest, and he has certainly given us a race today, and he's certainly given us a statement of how quick he is, coming from F3. And yeah, I'm really excited. He will be, hopefully, up there every single race for the rest of the season, because he'll get his win one day, it seems, but not today. It is Bulkstad's day. Nixon on the podium once again. Reina just couldn't do it in the end. But yeah, that is it for the Grand Prix. As Titan isn't finished yet, but on my screen is finished. Yeah.
I think he's
not
running out
the
of
best day in the
fuel.
office for him.
No, having desync, of course, really just not the day you wanted to have. But did he get the fastest lap in the end? Yes, he did. But unfortunately, that will not give an extra point in the championship because he was in 14th outside of the top 10. Currently just waiting for the time to run out. But yeah, your finishing order will be Bulksan in first, just winning over Sones. Sones not able to pull that gap on the final couple of laps. Then we have Igniton in third, running off that podium. Then Rain in fourth, Get Owned in fifth. Well done to him coming up here into F2. Same has to be said to Sones, and of course also Yeltec and Brownie in 6th and 7th. Then 8th goes to Soren, 9th Chrysix, and the final points goes to Hadler in 10th there. Then Smeej, Kopi, Boomsong, and in last place we have Heitenen. Unfortunately today we lost Dax, Skatey and Kimmies. Dax and Skatey not getting the start to F2 as they would have wanted. They will have plenty of races to catch that up.
Shout out to Brownie, who made up 10 positions from 17th and last to 7th. So a very good recovery drive from him after messing up in qualifying. But there we go then, Bulksan takes his first win of the season. It had been coming, and what a race to win, really. What a race to win here in Silverstone at the British Grand Prix. And yeah, 25 points in the bag. I'm not 100% sure what that'll do to the driver standings, but he'll be in really good shape as we come to Germany.
Yes, of course he will, and we will be back. Is it 2 or 3 weeks
We have a we'll be back in 3 weeks to today. We have a 2-week break, I think.
Yeah, so
10th of November.
Yeah, we'll be back on the 10th of November with Germany due to, of course, the real-life Mexican and American Grand Prix. But until then, stay safe and have a good one.